My fourth night in Fortnite. Which night? Fort. My life mortared into a battle bus. I slurp the juice, chug the jug. The blue slug fills the bullet holes in my aura, patching the very hitbox of my spirit. I erect a wooden temple to myself, a thought castle made rubble by the storm. And what is the storm but the universe's gum line receding to expose the nerve of reality? 99 other me's, jittering meat puppets piloted by a ghost of 99-year-old me's seek to be the victor of Royale.
Hello everyone, I'm Bones McGee, part-time gamer, part-time thinker, all-time skeleton, and Fortnite is a game that needs no introduction. Ever since its release in 2017 and its introduction of a Battle Royale mode, the game's popularity skyrocketed and transformed the little zombie shooter into a massive cultural juggernaut. The game has come a long way since those humble beginnings, but the game wasn't always like the way it is now. There has been a lot of visual and game changes that have transformed the game into what we know today. This change over time has resulted into what I consider to be a loss of identity for the game, and I don't mean crossovers bad or old Fortnite better, because those are some real rose-tinted takes. What I mean is a loss of artistic and gameplay consistency as the game has lived on. In order to deep dive into this, I'm gonna have to take you back to the past. Not to play the shitty games that suck ass. Instead, I'm gonna take you all the way back to 2017 to take a look at Fortnite's start and how the game compares today from a gameplay and artistic sense. Without further ado, let's dive right in. Fortnite released in early access all the way back on July 25th, 2017. During this time, the game didn't have a Battle Royale mode. It was exclusively what we would come to know as Fortnite Save the World. When it came out, though, it was just called Fortnite. The Battle Royale mode wasn't added until a few months after the game's release, on September 26th the same year. The free-to-play Battle Royale mode was appropriately dubbed Fortnite Battle Royale to differentiate it from the main game. That is until the Battle Royale version got insanely popular and the names swapped, with the Battle Royale simply being dubbed Fortnite and the original game was renamed to Fortnite Save the World. Thankfully, Save the World is still playable to this day, and it's like a time capsule of what the game used to look like. And honestly, Save the World is pretty fun, and I feel like it gets overshadowed by Fortnite's other modes. I mean, it's fully voiced, it has unique and quirky characters, and the enemy AI is honestly really unique for a game like this. Instead of just mindlessly walking like lemmings, a majority of the husks will walk straight for the target, but some of them will wander around and attempt to probe your defenses and find weaknesses while you're distracted with the main horde. That's honestly really cool. It makes the player really think about if they've covered all their bases and have a solid defense. The best example of this was when I was playing with a few of my friends to get footage for the video, and the Atlas kept taking damage with no apparent cause. We had walls on all sides, so we weren't sure how the husks were getting in until we found out the cliff edge above the Atlas had a route up to it that some of the husks were taking, and they were literally throwing themselves off the cliff to get to it because we didn't build a roof. That's honestly so much more engaging than the usual horde walk in one direction most games of this genre use. The important part about Save the World, though, is its art style, which was shared with the Battle Royale mode for a long time, as originally Fortnite Battle Royale simply reused Save the World assets, but that is what established its art style and identity as a game. Save the World was all about stylization. The character designs, environments, textures all have a graphical style that rides a fine line between Pixar-adjacent animation and grounded post-apocalypse. While the characters and graphics might look goofy, you can still tell this world is on its last legs with dilapidated abandoned buildings. This exaggerated realism is what made Fortnite as a whole so appealing to begin with. Fortnite didn't just look different, it looked coherent. When this art style was inherited by the Battle Royale mode, it only made the game more enticing. But enough about Save the World. It's time we discuss what we're all here for, Fortnite Battle Royale. Fortnite had become a Battle Royale with a unique building mechanic that allowed adaptability in nearly all situations, and had a Saturday morning cartoon vibe with a little apocalypse on the side. At the time, the most popular game in the Battle Royale genre was PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which had a more realistic graphical style and gameplay. This contrast solidified Fortnite Battle Royale as unique in its genre, and gave it an edge on the market, which is part of the reason why it got so popular. The other reason was that it was of course free to play. PUBG cost $30 to play at the time, so when a new free-to-play Battle Royale with unique mechanics and appealing visuals dropped on the market, people flocked to try it out. The stylized and simpler graphics did more than be appealing though. They also provided a level of visual clarity that the modern version of the game lacks. While getting footage for this video, I checked out Fortnite OG, a recreation of some of the older seasons from Chapter 1, and immediately I felt an immense difference in how the game felt to play. Being able to identify my targets without all that visual clutter they added in the name of higher graphical fidelity was such a breath of fresh air, and I immediately was having more fun. I find this older stylized art style to be much more nice and appealing than what we have now in the latest season. It was during Chapter 1 that Fortnite established this identity for itself. The graphics were stylized, the characters were cartoony, and the weapons, while exaggerated, still felt good to use and were recognizable. Starting off with the characters, pretty much all of the characters are based on the original character designs for Save the World, and all visually matched each other. All these characters look like they're from the same universe, no matter how over the top the designs were. I can take Ragnarok from Season 5, this badass Viking with the skull helmet and glowing blue details, and put him right next to Jonesy, and while one is clearly much more wild in design, they both look like characters from the same game. The weapons also deserve some recognition. They're stylized but are all easily recognizable, and some are even based on real weapons but with that iconic Fortnite style. The classic AR was designed after the AR-15, with legendary variants being modeled after the FN Scar. It was called the Gold Scar for a reason. The pump shotgun was more generic, but closely resembles a Remington 870, and its legendary variant is based on the Spaz 12. The SMG is a cartoony MP5, with its legendary being a FNP90. These guns can best be described as silhouettes of their real counterparts, instantly recognizable, but thanks to their visual appearances, they fit in the world they were in, and look like weapons the characters would use believably. To sum everything up, everything in Chapter 1 of Fortnite Battle Royale all shared a visual theme. Why? Because they reused assets from Save the World, which was a game designed with a single visual theme in mind. Both Battle Royale and Save the World share the same visual identity. This unified visual theme, or more simply artistic consistency, is what Fortnite's identity was. To reiterate, it was that free-to-play Battle Royale game with the cartoony graphics and unique fun gameplay. That identity didn't stay intact forever. As Fortnite continued to grow, that unified visual and mechanical language slowly began to crack, not all at once and not in a way that was immediately obvious, but through a series of small changes that prioritized novelty, spectacle, and crossovers over cohesion. New seasons brought new mechanics, new visual effects, and increasingly experimental designs, many of which were fun in isolation but didn't always fit within the framework Fortnite had originally established. What was once a game with a clear artistic direction and strong sense of self gradually became something looser, more fragmented. At some point, Epic stopped asking, does this belong in this world, and started asking, will this keep people playing? And that shift away from identity and towards constant reinvention is where Fortnite began to lose the consistency that wants to find it. Because of the slow shift away from its original identity, it's hard to define exactly where this change began, but I believe it can be traced as early as Season 4 of Chapter 1, with the Thanos Infinity War event. This event was hugely popular and brought even more new players into the game, and to be honest, it was a cool event. The prospect of getting to play as Thanos in Fortnite was a huge marketing win, and the event became both hugely popular and widely covered by the media. Even if it wasn't obvious then, the mental shift here for Fortnite's direction was enormous. The draw this event brought framed Fortnite not just as a game, but as a potential venue, a platform where anything could happen. If Thanos could show up in Fortnite, then who else could? It taught the lesson that external IPs bring attention, even when they don't belong in the world. While the rest of Chapter 1 still kept the visual consistency and overall identity, it was evident that the game was slowly beginning to shift. Season 7 and 8 brought the Marshmallow event, and the Avengers made a return. It wasn't just the increase in collabs, though. The visual direction alone had begun to shift with subtle aesthetical changes. Season 9 and Season X brought more neon and sci-fi elements to the game's world, with cleaner, sleeker materials and less of that overall save-the-world grit. If the Fortnite Season 4 event cracked the foundation, then the introduction of Chapter 2 is what would go on to completely shatter it. The new chapter's launch brought new engine tech, cleaner visuals, and less save-the-world DNA. Guns have begun to start looking cleaner and less stylized, and characters both outside and in the Battle Pass have begun to stray from the original art style. It was Chapter 2, Season 2 that marked the point of no return for the game. This was the first season in the game's history where a character from another IP was in the Battle Pass, that character of course being Marvel's Deadpool. The next season featured Aquaman, specifically Jason Momoa's Aquaman from the 2018 movie. Chapter 2 Season 4 though didn't just feature a singular character. The entire season was a Marvel crossover. Every skin on the Battle Pass was a Marvel character. Thor, She-Hulk, Groot and Rocket Raccoon, Doctor Doom, Tony Stark, just to name a few. After this, there was a stretch of seasons where every skin at Tier 100 was a crossover skin. Chapter 2 Season 7 featured Rick Sanchez, Season 8 had Carnage, and Chapter 3 Season 1 had Spider-Man. This continued for several seasons with skins like Doctor Strange and Darth Vader until Chapter 3 Season 5. Why do I bring this up? The absurd amount of crossovers listed here might seem at first glance like my point is crossover bad, boo. In reality, I don't mind the crossovers. Some of them I really like. For example, when the crossover started, I really wanted an Alien crossover so I could play as a Xenomorph, and we eventually got that. And Chapter 2 Season 4 added Rocket Raccoon as a back bling, who is my favorite Marvel character of all time. My point is that these crossovers changed the identity of not only the game but the Battle Pass itself, especially with that stretch of Tier 100 crossovers I mentioned. Back in Chapter 1, the Tier 100 skins represented the pinnacle of that season, the ultimate Fortnite original character. It was a capstone that represented each season's theme, well, at least for the most part. Back then, not only were the Tier 100 skins the coolest available to earn, but also the hardest. The challenges back then were tough but engaging, some of them requiring you to, well, actually think. Like the challenges to triangulate a point between 3 landmarks. These challenges were actually challenges. In Chapter 1 Season 5, there was a bunch of loading screens you could earn through the seasonal challenges that gave you hints on how to complete them. That was such a cool and creative feature. Earning a Tier 100 skin back then actually felt like you accomplished something, and the reward was the coolest skin around at the time. Seeing people with these skins was genuinely amazing, and terrifying. A lot of the time, they were genuinely really good players, so these skins not only looked cool, but also became urban legends of a sort. But with that stretch of crossover skins, the meaning of Tier 100 changed. It wasn't the capstone of the season anymore. It wasn't about looking cool, it was about showcasing the most eye-grabbing crossover they could get at the time. These characters rarely matched the actual theme of the season they were supposed to represent. The exception to this is obviously Rick Sanchez, since Chapter 2 Season 7 was alien-themed, but Carnage and Spider-Man had almost nothing to do with the season's theme or story. They were just there to generate marketing hype. Tier 100 was no longer this sacred goal to aspire to, it was just a crossover character that was cool for the novelty, and nothing more. Flash forward to the present day, the current season, Chapter 7 Season 1, and the game looks almost nothing like it did back in 2017 through 2019. Starting off with the art style, or the complete lack of it. Because of the sheer amount of crossovers and other graphical innovations, the original design cohesion that made Chapter 1 so iconic has essentially been lost to the modern day. First, the cel-shaded skins. I have nothing against them. In fact, I think they look great, especially compared to Fortnite's first foray into creating cel-shaded characters. TNTina from Chapter 2 Season 2 was technically the first, but her cel-shaded design was an unlockable alt style. Lexa from Chapter 2 Season 5, though, was the first completely cel-shaded skin, and she was rough. Like, genuinely, she's super uncanny and kinda freaks me out. Good lord. The newer cel-shaded skins really speak to how far we've come design-wise. Where am I going with this? My point is that the cel-shaded skins, while visually appealing, are so drastically removed from the original art style that even nowadays they don't look like they're even from Fortnite. Take Goku, for example. You could just take a picture of him in-game, tell me it was from any officially licensed Dragon Ball game, and I'd believe you. Just equip any cel-shaded skin, boot up Save the World or Fortnite OG, and you can immediately see how out of place they look. In fact, even the modern original skins, both for the Battle Pass and outside of it, don't resemble the original artistic direction from the game's release. They are far less stylized and more realistically proportioned. The closest example we get to the original visual identity in the current Battle Pass is the Dark Voyager, with his cube theming being a callback to the cubes from previous seasons, but even he is semi-grounded in his appearance. Next up, celebrity skins. While they also look good, they don't fit the original art style either, or even the current art style. Why? Because they're literally just scans of each celebrity. They are nearly one-to-one recreations of the real person. I'll take one of the current Battle Pass skins, for example, Cat Holloway, and compare them to a recent celebrity skin, specifically Tyler the Creator. Cat Holloway is clearly inspired by popular young A-list Hollywood actresses, but she doesn't resemble any of them closely. Even in Fortnite's push for more realistic-looking skins, she is still mildly stylized, almost like a Barbie doll, for example. Tyler the Creator, however, is literally just Tyler the Creator. It's literally just him. I could take his mugshot and compare it to his skin, and the facial features are exactly the same. The biggest tell that this is even a Fortnite model is that the texture detail is very flat, like many of the game's other models, which is about the only consistency between any of them. This goes for all celebrity skins for the most part. I looked at a list of every Icon series skin that's ever been released, and the only one that even closely resembles the original character design, and I hate to use him as a positive example, is Ninja. Sparks technically is an Icon skin, but I don't count her, as she's a recreation of an already existing skin in partnership with popular streamer Clicks, and the skin she's based on, Sparkplug, already uses the original Save the World style. I know that it's the Icon's choice on how they want to appear in the game, but not one celebrity thought it would be cool to see how they looked in the original style. Not even the most extreme designs for these skins resemble anything from Chapter 1. For some of these skins, like the Gorillaz Icon skins in the K-pop Demon Hunters crossover, it does make sense for them to not resemble the original art style, as they are already stylized. But that in itself is a problem. They can't even be converted to the original art style. It's an unavoidable break of cohesion. All of these skins don't look like they belong in the same game, and yet at the same time they do, because the game doesn't have a visual standard anymore, so even out-of-place designs still belong. The skins alone speak volumes, but what of the actual game? Just a look at the environmental graphics, and they look nothing like the original art direction. Everything is shinier, smoother, more realistic, but the textures are still mildly cartoony and lack detail. It's odd. It feels more like a cartoon, and at the same time, it doesn't really feel like a cartoon at all. With all these realistic proportions, it feels more like they're trying to go for some kind of rotoscoped or semi-realistic cartoon style, but in 3D. Something like Heavy Metal, or a more realistic cartoon like King of the Hill, or various Studio Ghibli films, and they're just not hitting either of those notes. The guns, too, are no longer stylized. They're extremely realistic in their models and detailing, down to accurate-to-life visuals of the gun ejecting casings. Take one of these guns, like the Deadeye Assault Rifle in the current season, and put it in the hands of any of the old Save the World characters, and it just does not look right. To shine a spotlight on the Battle Pass, I feel like the Battle Passes of late aren't as, how would I put it, iconic? No. Rememberable? Yeah, rememberable as previous passes. I can probably name most of the skins from the Chapter 1 Season 5 Battle Pass off the top of my head, but this current one, I only know them because I'm looking at them. And previous Battle Passes like Chapter 3 Season 1, I only remember that they had Spider-Man in it, but none of the other skins I can recall without looking it up. It's almost like those crossovers not only changed what Tier 100 meant, but completely overshadowed any of the original skins from that season, which, at least in my opinion, makes those Battle Passes less memorable. All in all, just at a glance, Fortnite has become a hodgepodge of graphical design and visuals. It manages to have an art style and at the same time doesn't have one at all. It's incredibly inconsistent from an artistic perspective. It's like if I took Beavis and Butthead and dropped them in the middle of Call of Duty. Oh, wait, I can't make that comparison because Call of Duty already fucking did that! Fuck! Beavis and Butthead being in Call of Duty is a huge problem. Fortnite's marketing philosophy of throw popular character in for hype is spreading to other games like a disease. It's normalizing visual incoherence for the sake of monetary gain. Call of Duty was once a heavily grounded series of military shooters, but nowadays it's evolved into, well, whatever the hell it is now.
I would not want to live in a world like this. This looks like Skibbity Toilet.
Oh, and Beavis and Butthead are in Fortnite too, so that's just the cherry on top, I suppose. But what about actual gameplay? In terms of the main Battle Royale mode, it's mostly the same minus the constantly changing seasonal selection of weapons, switching up the meta. I will give modern Fortnite credit that the weapons do feel much more usable compared to guns from Chapter 1. What I mean by this is that while the classic AR will always hold a special place in my memory, it always kind of felt bad to use. specifically with its bloom. It's quite random, and holding down the trigger throws away any sort of accuracy the gun might have had. Even in closer range engagements, it can feel as though your bullets are intentionally missing their mark as they fly out of the barrel at an angle and hit anything but the target in front of you. These modern weapons feel much better to use and reward staying on target, like the Enforcer AR in the current season. This thing is my medium to long range weapon of choice. Its bloom is more controlled and feels much more realistic. Anytime I'm not hitting my mark with this gun, it feels more like I'm the one fucking up, not the gun shooting in random directions. Oh yeah, and they killed the battle bus driver. That's right. He fucking died at the start of this season. They removed one of the longest running unique aspects of the game. You know what you do to start the match now? You surf to the island. I mean, it's kind of fun, but it's limiting since you can't really choose exactly where you want to land now. You've only got a small selection of the map to choose from. I would like to make a quick comment on Zero Build though. While I think it's fun and it does give a change of pace for those who aren't too keen on building structures, it also removes one of the core mechanics that separated Fortnite from other battle royales at the time. It is good that this is a separate mode, but there was that one season back when this mode was introduced where this was the only mode you could play, with the explanation being that the big evil imagined order disabled building during the war storyline. Hey, oh yeah, the storyline! Fortnite has a story, or at least it tried. Does it still even have a story? From what I remember, it was about the imagined order maintaining, well, order in the multiverse by controlling the 0 point. Which is why the Battle Royale even happens, because people from across the multiverse get trapped in something called the Loop, where they are deprived of their memories and ability to speak, and so are forced to fight to the death in a time loop. Sort of like Hunger Games meets Groundhog Day. It's honestly a cool concept, but it's a shame that, as far as I can tell, it's been almost completely dropped from the Battle Royale as a whole. The 0 point still technically exists, but it has little bearing on the game's actual story nowadays, if the story still even exists. The Imagined Order is basically dead. The 7 are all either dead, MIA, or have otherwise been sidelined. And that's probably the saddest part. Fortnite, after progressing from Chapter 1, might have begun to lose its identity, but it tried to establish a new one with this meta-narrative about realities and time loops that gave a diegetic reason for the Battle Royale to exist. It was cool, and for a time I was invested in that story. It gave me reasons to look forward to live events and the next seasons to learn what happens next. Now that there isn't a storyline anymore though, there is literally nothing to hold Fortnite together coherently. Outside of that though, Fortnite has expanded beyond a game with 2 modes. Epic expanded the lineup of game modes with Rocket Racing, Fortnite Festival, and LEGO Fortnite, but has also added the ability for players to create their own games, turning Fortnite into more than just a game, but a platform. So as I scroll down through these player-made games, I'm reminded of only one thing: Roblox. That's right, Fortnite as a platform is just Roblox with a different coat of paint and beefier PC requirements. The games are all mostly clones of genres that already proliferate Roblox. Tycoons, simulators, cheap horror games. Most, if not all of the games feature AI-generated thumbnails, and they're even referred to as experiences, just like Roblox does nowadays. In fact, there are even clones of games already popular on Roblox. Roblox has Steal a Brain Rot, and Fortnite has Steal the Brain Rot. Ooh, now we're giving David a run for his money. I used to play Roblox a lot back in the day. Back then, my main draw to it was that it was free to play and didn't require an expensive PC to run. It was a venue in which I could hang out with my friends without needing to shell out the clams for a better computer. Once I did get a PC that could run better games though, I slowly stopped getting on Roblox until I basically just stopped altogether. Fortnite with these player-generated games has that same venue framework, but it requires a much better PC to run despite being free to play, and most people who enjoy Roblox for the sake of accessibility aren't going to switch over to Fortnite just because it's basically Roblox now. I was going to say that Fortnite had one advantage with being available on more platforms, but even Roblox has been expanding its catalog of available devices to play, and Roblox Mobile also has a better degree of accessibility than Fortnite Mobile, considering Fortnite also requires a beefier phone to play too. Overall, if I wanted to play shitty games and get groomed by someone twice my age, I'd just play Roblox. I stopped playing Roblox when I gained the ability to play better games like, well, Fortnite. Oh, great, I can't use Fortnite as an example because I'm already talking about Fortnite. Why would I ever play these Fortnite user-generated games? They are essentially just the same thing as what's on Roblox, and I can get a better experience playing the original game modes created by Epic on the same platform. And speaking of those Epic created modes, are they any fun? Long story short, yeah, they are mostly fun. Fortnite Festival is a really competent clone of Guitar Hero. LEGO Fortnite is basically, well, Minecraft, but Legos. And Fortnite. I've got nothing to comment. Rocket Racing is a decently fun arcade racer with fast-paced action similar to Mario Kart in a sense. My biggest problem with Rocket Racing is that nobody fucking plays it. Even at launch, the queue times for this game mode were pretty bad, but nowadays it's almost impossible to get a full public lobby. It's a shame, really, as it's easily one of my favorite of all the modes Epic added when they expanded to the platform format. On the topic of Rocket Racing, though, and more specifically what came with it, I'd like to transition into the next segment called... While it may seem cliche to critique Fortnite on its monetization strategies, considering they've always been a tad aggressive from the very start, they too have transitioned over time into something entirely different. Like I said, even from the start, the monetization strategy of Fortnite has always been a bit pushy. But many other games that are free-to-play do the exact same thing. You know, the usual, charge $15 of in-game currency for a cosmetic but not offer a $15 currency pack, so the user has to spend $20 to get enough currency to purchase the item, that sort of thing. This sort of strategy has been the point of contention for gamers in general, and I've seen many comments from many different spheres saying that they quit a free-to-play game simply because of the in-your-face monetization. There are even companies that outright killed their games by making the in-game purchases more and more pushy. Fortnite, however, has gone above and beyond in recent years to milk everything they can out of your wallet. Bringing it back around the Rocket Racing, when that game mode dropped, they introduced car skins, which can be purchased on the item shop. They can be used both in Rocket Racing and in Battle Royale, transforming any supercar you get into the currently equipped skin. Sounds great on paper, but there's one small issue though. These cars cost anywhere from 1,500 to 3,500 V-Bucks, or upwards of $35. Keep in mind that these can only be used in 2 game modes, and in one of them it only works on one kind of drivable car. That is such a kick in the balls, especially for the price. They've also recently introduced sidekicks, which are kind of the evolution of the scrapped pet backblings from back in the day. They're cool in concept because they follow you around and react to things you do, but they come with their own plethora of issues. The biggest glaring problem with these guys is that they have multiple styles and potential variations, but you can only customize them once. In order to have the freedom to switch between the styles, you need to buy a new one and customize them with a different style every time. This is incredibly egregious. To put it into numbers, the Little Raptor sidekick, with all its customization options and possible variants, would cost you 1,382,400 V-Bucks to get every single one, or $8,190.98 USD. What the fuck? You can argue that you don't realistically need to have every single possible variant available, but the fact that you can't freely customize them is just so fucked. Why do I need to buy a new one if I get tired of the way mine currently looks? I don't have to buy a new version of the skin I'm using if I want to swap styles, so why did they put that restriction on the sidekicks? You want to know why? Money, that's why. And don't get me started on the kicks. They can go for about 600 to 1,000 V-Bucks depending on the shoe, or $6 to $10. But remember, you can't buy 600 V-Bucks specifically. The minimum amount you can buy is 1,000, so basically all the shoes are $10 fucking dollars. $10 might not seem like much to the average person, but if I only had $10 and I could choose between buying the bread and deli meat to make sandwiches and feed myself for a week, or being able to play as Peter Griffin wearing Air Jordans and starving, I think I'll pick the sandwiches. You can buy the fucking battle pass for that much. In fact, instead of buying $10 digital shoes, I'd rather buy $150 real ones. At least I can actually wear those, and when Fortnite servers eventually go down in 50 plus years, I'll still maybe have those real shoes. What's next? Is Fortnite gonna add literal iPhones to the game that I can use to browse the shop or watch Family Guy funny moments in the middle of a match? Unless it's got that app to destroy all ops, I ain't buying it, bro.
Hey boy, I just got that new iPhone. It even got an app to destroy all ops. Watch this. Oh!
Finally, the shop overall has had an expansion since the game's debut. Originally, the Fortnite item shop only consisted of about 3 pages, each one having maybe one set that included a skin, backbling, and a few other things like emotes, and occasionally a page would be single individual items, but all of them were fairly evenly distributed, and every page was swapped out every 24 hours. The shop might have been small, but its daily variety was still noticeable, and you never knew what was going to be in the shop next. Flash forward to today, on January 20th of 2026, the store has a total of 19 pages, not counting subsections. Most of these pages are entirely dedicated to crossovers and even icon emotes. There's a whole section dedicated to the aforementioned cars, and the biggest issue here is that only a few of these sections actually swap out daily like they used to. Most of these pages, especially crossover items, stay for multiple days or even weeks. If they do get moved, it's only farther down as new crossovers cycle in or are added. It's very in your face, and with so many pages constantly staying, I find it difficult to hunt down skins I'm actually looking for. I still have to wait for the shop to cycle like the days of old, but now I've got to dig through all these irrelevant pages to find what I want. It means I spend more time in the shop getting microtransactions shoved in my face than I ever did before. It basically makes Fortnite look like a digital shopping spree simulator than even a game platform. Not even Roblox is this bad. At least there the shop isn't super glaring. There's a lot of stuff, sure, but it's not flashing in my face and none of it ever leaves. So FOMO isn't even an issue. Before I wrap things up, I want to discuss Fortnite's many crossovers one more time. And this next part doesn't necessarily tie into the game's identity, so that's why I put it here at the end. A lot of these crossovers are with IPs that have adult themes. The Alien franchise, Terminator, Rick and Morty, Family Guy, and most recently South Park and Quentin Tarantino movies like Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction all have extremely adult themes or scenes that aren't suitable for children, and yet a large chunk of the player base is younger kids. While most are teens that would be able to handle these themes with adult supervision, a good amount of them are really young. Too young to view the kinds of things these pieces of media feature. While I am well aware that we live in a day and age where monitoring what media our children consume is unfortunately no longer a top priority for some parents, I still find it concerning that Fortnite is basically advertising these IPs to children that shouldn't be viewing them. You can argue that just because Eric Cartman and Rick Sanchez are in the game means that these kids are not going to immediately flock to see these shows, especially since the in-game items don't feature anything adult other than the characters themselves. However, the potential for a pipeline, at least in my opinion, is still there. You don't have to agree with me on this part, but it is nonetheless something that concerns me. Epic has implemented certain online safety and parental control features that should solve this problem, at least in theory. Some adult skins, or skins with potentially adult aspects, are blocked in certain game modes with parental controls enabled, so young kids can't see them and experiences that aren't rated 12 or higher. This sounds great on paper, until you realize that this cosmetic restriction is incredibly inconsistent. One skin from a certain adult IP might be restricted while another might not be. For example, the Xenomorph is restricted, but the Xenomorph from Alien Earth isn't, despite being from the same franchise. Just go into any Fortnite subreddit and search restricted cosmetics and you can find all kinds of posts criticizing this exact inconsistency. This filtering system as a result is half-baked and doesn't enforce a coherent audience standard. On top of this, these skins can appear in Battle Royale and are shown in the item shop regardless of parental settings. Kids also frequently find ways to bypass these parental controls anyway. I would go into detail on how easy it is to do that, but that would only encourage them to do so. Sorry kiddies, I will take no part in exacerbating your delinquency. Over the course of several years, Fortnite has evolved from its humble origins, and it certainly isn't what it used to be. Overall, I still consider it to be a fun game, but I can't take it seriously like I used to. Matches are no longer about winning to me, it's just a fuck around and find out kind of game, and if I get a win, then that's the cherry on top. I'd say for the best experience, stick to Battle Royale, Save the World, or Fortnite Festival and Lego Fortnite if you want something different. If you want to play Roblox games, then just go play Roblox. They've got a better selection over there anyway. And even a few games with genuine effort to make something unique and high quality. In the end, Fortnite has become an amalgamation of all that was and all that ever will be, by sacrificing what made it truly special. That wraps up this video. Thank you all for watching, and if you liked what you saw today, then be sure to like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. I also have a Discord server where you can meet like-minded individuals. Link is in the description. I'll see you all in the next video.